So, moving right along. Matthew 22. Matthew 22, starting at verse 23. Let me get this thing straight here. And the same day Sadducees came to him, who say there is no resurrection. And they asked him a question, saying, Teacher, Moses said, if a man dies having no children, his brother must marry the widow and raise up offspring for his brother. And there were 7 brothers among us. The first married and died, and having no offspring left, his brother to his wife. So to the second and the third, down to the 7th. After them all, the woman died. In the resurrection, therefore, of the 7, whose wife will she be? For they all had her. The Sadducees were trying to trap him because they were talking about the absurdity of the resurrection, which we all know the resurrection is not absurd. So, Jesus answered them, You are wrong, because you know neither the Scriptures nor the power of God. Both are important. The Scriptures are not the only standard, although they are a standard. The power of God, the working of the Lord, the present day working of the Lord, the contemporary working of the Lord, His capacity to speak and our capacity to actually hear Him speaking to us is also a standard. And we use these twin standards to judge all things, to make decisions. So he says here, you know neither the Scriptures nor the power of God. In other words, you have not had a full-on encounter with the Lord. You've just stopped merely at your chosen set of words that you think are authorized by the purveyors of truth. For in the resurrection they are neither married nor are given in marriage, but are like angels in heaven. In other words, the point of heaven and the point of the resurrection is not marriage. What's the point of heaven and the resurrection? It's the execution of the kingdom, consummation of all things, our connection with Him, the fulfillment of all things. The purpose of the kingdom is fulfillment. It's not about, the deep inner workings of interpersonal relationships, because interpersonal relationships will not exist the way they existed here on earth. That's what Jesus is getting across. He's not necessarily saying, they're neither married nor given in marriage, nor do they remain married or whatnot. What he's talking about is there will be a deeper purpose than focusing on this concept of marriage in the kingdom. He evaded their trap. They were trying to bring an argument that was a reductio in absurdum. A reductio in absurdum, meaning a reduction to something that is completely absurd. But Jesus was telling them they were completely missing the point. They needed to get familiar with both the Scriptures and the power of God. As for the resurrection of the dead, have you not read what was said to God? I am the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. He is not the God of the dead, but of the living. In other words, he knew that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were currently, presently, in his time, when he spoke these words, living. And when the crowd heard it, they were astonished at his teaching. He sees to it that everything that dies in him remains alive, is resurrected.
I wonder how the Sadducees managed the story of Lazarus who went to Abraham's bosom. I mean, it was. I'm just curious how they managed that story. What did they just do like people do with Jonah and say it
It's a
wasn't really.
metaphor. It never
Yeah,
really
it's a metaphor.
happened.
Okay.
Wow.
Wow.
The way that a whole lot of, I'm going to say it this way, I'm going to say it the way it should be said. There's a whole lot of people in the Protestant movement of Christianity that like to affirm certain things, but they're dead. They've resorted to secular humanism to explicate their faith. They want to demystify everything. They want to make everything, that doesn't make sense to them become a metaphor. They have no encounter with the power of God, and they want to discount and slander everybody that has an experience with the power of God. In some ways, Protestants are worse off than Catholics. Because in many ways, the vast majority of them, those that are practicing evangelicals, deny the power of God in at least one facet of their lives. So the sad thing is when you're talking with the King of Kings, the Son of David, and he's telling you, you need two things, the Scriptures and the power of God. It's not just enough to have an experience. It's not just enough to have the text. You fuse the two together, and it becomes what Del Toro called knowledge on fire. You have an encounter in the text with the King of Glory, and that encounter has an impact on your life that is forceful, effective, and full of power, and you've experienced him, and you know him, and you can say, yes, I have. So many of us are missing that, and that's why we have so many people leaving the church, because the church is trying to maintain an institution that doesn't work, has no power, and is not engaged in justice in society. That is social justice. Real simple. Made up of two words. Social, meaning pertaining to society or a social grouping, and justice. In other words, removing the things that create injustice for groups of people. Women, the unborn, blacks, Native Americans, whites, whatever. Justice all the way around. And our Lord came to bring justice. Amos says, let justice roll down like a river, righteousness like a never-failing stream. We engage with the text of God and the power of God, and we see things come to pass, and we engage with the principles. So it's not just about having the encounters, it's about knowing the cause and effect relationships, being able to weave those together and watch the power of God work through principles and the power of God work through his divine and direct intervention. 90% of the time we're working with principles, 10% of the time God's intervening. The more we work with principles, get intimate with them, and enjoy them and celebrate their execution, because it's a cause and effect relationship that's non-optional, the more he will intervene. The deeper our relationship goes with him and goes beyond obsession with, what's it going to be like? Are we going to be married? The more we get into relating to him, the more the intervention will come. But we have to show we value both the Scriptures and the power of God, both the principles and the encounter. And we have to be willing to let him interrupt and intervene. So, do you have any thoughts, Peaches? Okay. Well, we bless you, guys online, ladies online, with the power of God with the understanding of cause and effect relationships, with the scriptures, the principles. We bless you to flow in everything you were made to flow in. In the name of Yeshua HaMashiach, be at peace.